bookish friends, welcome to my side of the internet. My name is Kathleen and here we talk about all things bookish. And for today's video, we are going to be doing a nice little reading vlog where I read a few books and we kind of chat and discuss about it. So the books I'm going to be reading in this reading vlog are Cobb, The Hollywood Assistant, which is her recent release. I'm so excited to be giving Cobb a try. I saw her at the San Antonio Book Festival in April, and I was just so impressed with her talk and the way that she just talked about her writing and her craft. And it was such a lovely time. And I also love the way that she just interacted with Ashley Winstead, who was also there during that talk. Just their camaraderie, their exploration and their discussions about their craft, about their books and their inspiration. I found it to be completely fascinating and I was like, I want to read from this author. So I'm excited to be reading her recent release and can't wait for that. So in this story, we're basically following this woman who's kind of down on her luck in her life, and she ends up with this opportunity to work for this famous celebrity couple, becoming their assistant. And of course, as these things happen, she kind of ends up developing this kind of situationship with the husband due to her feeling like maybe he can help her get a leg up when it comes to her writing and the pursuit of her dreams and aspirations in Hollywood. But things go awry, and what ends up happening is one of the married couples ends up dead and she becomes the suspect for their murder. This sounds like it's going to be a delicious, interesting thriller. I'm getting really good vibes from it and I can't wait to dive into it. The other two books I plan on reading in this vlog are Anybot by Sierra Greer, which in this story we are following this AI, this robot that's basically created to be the perfect girlfriend for this man named Doug. But she, I would say, begins to want more from her life and is becoming more human and is trying to navigate her growing sense of humanity and individuality while also trying to please and accommodate Doug. I think this is going to be interesting. I've seen a lot of people have very wild, not wild, but very opposite or opposing views when it comes to this book. Some really like it and some people really hate it. It's not a book that you feel in between about, and I want to know what it's all about. And yeah, so that's what's going to be going down in this vlog. Right now I need to do some chores around the house. I need to do a little bit of cleaning because this is part of my monthly reset for May. I need to kind of like reset the apartment and tidy things up and do a little bit of deep cleaning, and that's what I've been doing this weekend. So I need to finish doing some tidying and deep cleaning in my bedroom, and then I will finally be able to like spend some time reading, getting into my books, and I can't wait for that. And I will check back in with you once I kind of get into a good place in one of these books. I'll check back in with you and give you my initial thoughts. All right, friends, let's do a little update, shall we, on The Hollywood Assistant by Cobb. So currently I'm sitting at 26% in this novel, and so far my initial thoughts are that I'm having a good time, and this is very interesting and compelling. I really am enjoying this writing style. It's very straightforward and approachable and making it easy for you to just dive into the content and dive into the story. I'm enjoying the way this story is structured, as we have a present timeline and a past timeline. In the past timeline, we are seeing Cassidy, where she starts working for the Sterlings and becomes involved in the daily to-dos of their life, and is learning more about this couple who she thinks and sees as being the perfect couple, but she's starting to see the cracks in their marriage. And we see in the present timeline that there has been something that has happened, as we see Cassidy being questioned by some police detectives in regards to a murder, and she's being very vague as to who this potential murder was or who was murdered, and we're not really getting all the context regarding what has happened, but we know that Cassidy is a prime suspect in this investigation, and that she feels that she had a significant role to play in what has transpired. So this is just really building and creating this feeling of suspense and suspicion, and just foreboding that you as a reader know that something is going awry and that something is happening in this past timeline that isn't all what it seems. And everything in this story has the perfect setup of just something of absolute madness ensuing. We see that Cassidy is the perfect character for this. She is very gullible. She's coming fresh off of a breakup, so she has kind of low self-esteem. She's not where she wants to be in her career as a novelist that writes primarily more literary romance. She's not having any success in this, and she's faced a bunch of rejections from different literary agents. And we see that she's at a low point in her life, and that working with the Sterlings and having this couple, Marisol and Nate, where everything that she does, they just lavish her with like compliments and positivity and tell her how she's indispensable to what they do, as she's just helping Marisol with basics of her life, organizing, running errands, and she just in a way like love bombs her and just tells her how indispensable she is to what she's doing, and just gives her all this fanfare and how great she is. And we have Nate also seeking her out, asking for her assistance in basically reading scripts and helping him out with that, and giving her insight on these scripts and how he is telling her that she's indispensable and that she's great at this. And in addition to this, she's kind of becoming involved in their personal life, as she's staying over and having dinner with them, and kind of seeing and exploring more of their couple dynamic and their relationship dynamic and their marriage. She has Marisol being intensely intimate with her and sharing intimate details regarding where her head is at in her marriage as well, and maybe some of her potential frustrations with her marriage and with her husband. And we have her witnessing them having disagreements with each other. And it's all like the perfect recipe for you to know that some wild shit's about to go down, but you don't exactly know what's going to happen or what's going to entail. And it's fascinating. It definitely has me on the edge of my seat trying to figure out what's going to happen, what's really going on, and trying to look into these different scenes and events to try to make it all make sense and to just kind of piece together as to what is possibly going on behind the scenes. But I'm enjoying this very, very much. And yeah, I will let you know when I get to 50% and update you on my thoughts then. All right, friends, so I finished The Hollywood Assistant by me, Cobb, and this book was phenomenal. I really enjoyed it. So this isn't something that I would classify or consider to be a mystery thriller. By no means. It didn't give me those vibes, but it was the perfect mystery suspense, specifically more of a psychological suspense. It gave me the vibes that you could get from like an erotic thriller such as the movie Unfaithful or Fatal Attraction. It definitely had those vibes to it. And this was something that, again, to me, read like a movie. I could definitely see this being adapted to a movie. It was just so good, so sexy, so sleek, so fun. I really enjoyed it. I think when it comes to just the content of this book, the things that I really enjoyed the most, or the themes that I really appreciated the most, was the theme of obsession. And as we followed Cassie with her unhealthy obsession with the Sterlings, and of course her unhealthy fixation and obsession on Nate, I thought that that was kind of interesting and superb. The writing for that was excellent. I felt a lot of the emotions that she was feeling. I also felt a lot of secondhand embarrassment and like awkward because Cassidy was being very awkward. But again, it built into and just went along with the scope and just the nature of this story, and it created the perfect amount of suspense while also lending into that trope of the unreliable narrator and bolstering that up, because you just see this girl becoming fixated on these people and doing these kind of like making these weird decisions and kind of like not truly acting, I don't think, as herself, and trying to morph into who she thinks she should be to appease to and make these people happy. And it was given crazy vibes. It was given this girl's got some problems. And again, she was also built, when it comes to her characterization, to be the perfect unreliable narrator, as she is very vulnerable coming off of a fresh breakup. So of course it makes sense that she would kind of get this obsession with Nate and kind of like get deluded into thinking that there is something between them when there really wasn't. It called a lot of that into question, and it was perfect for that. I love the plot development in this. I thought that that was phenomenal. She didn't sacrifice having an action-paced plot over the intentionality that she did as building this plot and being intentional with this story and building and crafting it, since it is very much of a slow burn. But again, there were things that were consistently happening throughout the story that maintained your interest and made it a propulsive read where you were compelled to continue and you wanted to turn the pages to see what was going to happen next. The writing style was very approachable, very straightforward. Again, vivid descriptions that made things feel very evocative and that created visceral reactions for you, whether it was awkwardness or secondhand embarrassment or confusion. You had a very visceral reaction to what was going on in this book. The only little thing I'll complain about is I felt this could be tightened up a little bit, and the flashbacks that we get in the beginning could have been removed and maybe written into the prologue, as I felt that they were a little redundant in the instance of kind of giving foreshadowing that something was going to go down, because we see that from the prologue that things are going to go south for Cassidy. And we know that going in as reading the premise. So it was a little redundant and it took up a little space in the story to have to go through that again at the beginning when we kind of already knew that things were going to go south. And since that didn't continue consistently throughout the story, it was a little, I just didn't, I could have done without it. But other than that, this book was phenomenal. I really, really enjoyed it. I gave it 4.5 stars. So yeah, that is with The Hollywood Assistant. So now I'm going to dive into Antibot, and we're gonna see what that is all about. And I will let you know when I start that and give you my thoughts and my initial kind of first time impressions. So we'll jump into that a little bit later. All right, friends. So I kind of got wrapped up in everything, and I bypassed my first check-in for my initial thoughts of Antibot. Currently right now, I'm about 43% into this story, and I get why people are saying this is very challenging and unsettling of a story. While I don't think it's challenging and unsettling for me for the same reasons it is for them, or maybe it is, I don't know. But it's definitely interesting. It's definitely pulling a very visceral reaction for me, and I'm having a very visceral kind of experience emotionally while reading this story. So I don't think I even discussed what the premise of this story is. So basically, we are following this android named Antibot, as she is basically this companion or girlfriend to this person named Doug, and she is trying to navigate how to satisfy him, how to be all that he wants, and navigate kind of his mercurial mood. And we are following her exploration and all that she's going through within this kind of relationship dynamic, if you will. And what can I say without being too spoilery? I think that for me, the thing that I keep coming back to and that I keep feeling and that keeps coming up in my mind is that if you are a person as Doug is in this story, and you have chosen to have an android with AI for a companion, for a partner, or to have some semblance of a relationship with, and you can't make the dynamic between you and an android who is basically tailored and designed to fulfill your every fantasy, your every wish, your every dream, and who is going to, by just having interactions with you and communicating with you and learning from you, is going to build their entire existence, their entire everything around your wants, your needs, and pleasing you. If you have this kind of setup and you're not able to make this dynamic or this type of relationship work with an android, I think it is safe to say that you are the problem. You are going to be the common denominator in all of your relationships, all of your social situations. You have some stuff that you need to work out. And we can clearly see this with Doug. And it's not just how he is very cruel and possessive and dominating and controlling over this android. I think that for me, I can overlook that because, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't overlook that, and maybe that's part of the point of the story, but I think I overlook that a little bit because, yeah, it's an android, it's not a sentient being, and this is, to me, a glorified like sex doll or glorified girlfriend. So I get the low-key possessiveness, low-key kind of, it's a thing and you own it. I'm not saying it's right, I'm saying I can see that. However, even though that may be all well and true, it's still icky because, and it's still toxic because Doug doesn't seem to have any grasp on the situation with anybody and her trying to learn and acclimate herself to be the best partner for him, to be the best tool for him, or whatever you want to call it. He doesn't seem to help her with this process. He doesn't want to take the time to communicate with her and let her know this is what I want and teach her basically kind of what he wants. It is him being this overgrown man-child where he wants her to anticipate his needs. He wants her to do all of these things and to do all of the metaphorical work in their dynamic. And he wants to do very fucking little. And that's what gets me is, despite this being an Android, if we the best example I can think of is when it comes to ChatGPT, most of us use ChatGPT. My experience with ChatGPT is going to be different from your experience with ChatGPT, right? Because it's created to provide a customized, tailored experience for me, where I set up like how I want it to give me the responses, what kind of language it's going to use, the tone when it is giving me these responses. And it learns how I prefer these responses to kind of be delivered. It's also learning from me, it's learning from my input how I like, what style or what way I like these responses to be given. And another crucial part of this back and forth with me and ChatGPT would be the prompts that I give it. If I give it a very vague, general prompt, I'm gonna get a very vague, general answer. But if I give a very detailed prompt, I'm gonna get a very detailed answer. And when we put this back to Doug and Antibot, he seems to be giving the bare, general kind of feedback. And when he gets a bare, general response, he gets mad and he flies off the handle and he becomes very childish and very like vicious for no reason, when all it warrants is conversation and providing input, saying, well, this is how I prefer, or this is what I like. And he's incapable of doing even that. So it's like he wants to have his cake and eat it too. He wants Antibot to be an android and to be his glorified sex doll and to be this companion. But he also wants her to kind of like think for herself and have some intellectual aspects of their dynamic where she understands these nuances and contexts when it comes to human romantic relationships, but he's not willing to teach her that or enlighten her on that. And he gets mad when she does a faux pas or makes a quote unquote mistake. And the way that he goes about it, it's just so petty, so childish, so like a man-child is the best way to explain it. And I don't know, that is what makes it challenging, is that you have this grown adult who doesn't know how to use their big words. And it's wild because even though it's with an android, like I can only imagine, how this person is in relationships with actual humans who, have their own desire, their own independence, and their own intellect. And how this is like the prime example, or he's showing us pretty much how self-absorbed and selfish he is and incapable of behaving properly and pulling his weight in a type of relationship or social situation. It's weird. He's weird. And I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It is what it is. It's just interesting and fascinating, this exploration, like I said. But, I don't know. He's getting on my nerves. He is getting on my ever-loving nerves. And his friend Roland is also weird. Like, all the men so far in this book has been weird. Like, they just do the weirdest, wackiest stuff. And they are blaming it. It seems like they're putting the onus of their blame and for the responsibility for their poor decisions on the freaking android. And I'm like, how in the world does that make sense? Make that make sense. You're incapable of using your intellect and your logic, and because you poorly use your intellect and logic, you go to blame the android. It's very, very interesting. Yeah. But that's kind of where I'm at. Those are my thoughts right now with this book. It's been a time. I will come back when I get to maybe about 60 to 70% and update you on my thoughts and where I'm at then. And yeah. Okay, friends, some time has passed, some hair has been chopped off, but at the end of the day, we are here to finish out this reading vlog and talk about Any Bot by Sierra Greer, which I finished today, and it left me feeling such a tangle of emotions and thoughts and feelings that I literally had to sit down and really ponder and reflect on and process so that I could properly rate this book and really reflect on my experience, because this was for me, it was a challenging read because of the content, because of, not necessarily the content, but because of the experience of Any Bot, because of the way that Sierra Greer didn't hold her punches, and she wrote an toxic and abusive relationship, and it was kind of hard to read that, challenging, upsetting, and I believe she did that on purpose. She wants you to be unsettled. She wants you to have a visceral reaction. She wants you to be upset because it aligns with her overall intent and the purpose of this work and what she's trying to say, and the more complex and deeper, like, feminist themes of this novel. So all that she did, every choice that she did when it comes to the writing style, when it comes to the content, when it comes to how she developed and crafted these characters, was for that specific intent, to align with her themes and to get you to feel uncomfortable, but to also push you to maybe shift your perspective, or to kind of go throughout this very deep and intensive thoughtful process and reflect on the work. So right there, she succeeded. She did her job with that. However, while I understand all of this and why I recognize it and I appreciate this work for what it is, it was still a very unsettling and not pleasant read to navigate. Not something that I necessarily enjoyed, but that I definitely found to be a good thought-provoking read that could open a lot of discussions when it concerns misogyny, when it concerns sexism, when we're talking about how women in abusive relationships, or women undergoing or going through domestic abuse, the way that society and people can play that down if they believe that there is no violence happening, how relationships that center on emotional abuse, mental abuse, financial abuse, where the partner or the spouse is exerting all of their control over this person, taking away their autonomy, taking away their ability to make decisions and to think properly for themselves, because they become their central world, and they're doing this under the guise of being a nice guy and helping them out and supporting them, but what they're actually doing is more sinister. And they're trying to control this person so that they can control their narrative and control what they experience and what they do so that it can benefit them. And I think that was what was the most challenging for me, and what she did so good at in this book was writing this story through Annie Bott's narrative, as we are seeing this story through her narrative and seeing her thoughts, seeing the back and forth and the conflicting, confusing emotions that she was having, where you as a reader wanted to literally yell at her and just be like, no, this isn't okay. Like you wanted to just help her navigate this craziness, but it was all part of the process, all part of the plan. Yeah, I don't think that while I enjoyed this book for what it was, and I respected it for what it was, I can confidently say I do not think I would read this book again, just because it was so frustrating to read, but important as it comes to the discussion about these deeper themes and topics of this book. However, I will like to say, and I do think it's important to say, that this book may not be for everyone. I've seen some very polarizing reviews on Goodreads when it comes to this book, where people have some very opposing and different experiences with this book, as can be expected, because of the content, because of the themes, and because of the way that it's written. But I do feel like if you are a person who wants a book that is going to really go there and make you uncomfortable, kind of make you feel unsettled when it comes to these discussions and these topics about misogyny, about the way that we as a society kind of take this, the way that we as society commodify women, commodify females, especially in heterosexual relationships, where they're only seen for their usefulness, where they can provide emotional support, how they can be the domestic queens of their household, how they're there for the sexual pleasure and entertainment and companionship of men, but we don't want to see them as a complete and total unique being apart from their role in these kind of places and spaces in the relationships. And that's a very interesting conversation. It's also something that stood out to me was, as we are talking about domestic abuse and domestic situations, how people will downplay domestic abuse for those who are just going through emotional or mental or financial abuse. And we can kind of spin this different narrative and make it be, and put the onus of the responsibility of fixing the problems within this relationship on the victim, and not actually saying what this person is doing is wrong. Just because a person is not physically or violently harming a person does not mean that they're not abusing that person. And this explored that perfectly. It did a really good job of exploring that, and how so many people are culpable, and we as a society are sometimes culpable in these situations. And in light of like current topics and current discussions that are coming about domestic violence and domestic abuse, we are seeing it again, where as a collective society, we tend to put the blame on the woman and her either choosing better or doing better, or she should have known better, and we downplay the situation if there isn't a physical or violent abuse present, if it's just emotional or mental or financial. We can make excuses for the perpetrator. But yeah, obviously these are some topics that we need to explore, we need to talk about if we want to move past this and actually do better in supporting people and getting them out of these harmful and dangerous and abusive situations. So I appreciated that for that. Those were the two themes that really just took root in my heart, took root in my mind, and that just really had my brain percolating. I can't really think of anything that this book could have done better or that it did wrong. Like I said, she had her purpose, she had her intent, she had a job, and I feel that Sierra Greer did her thing, and this is a phenomenal book. And I did settle on a 3.5 stars for this book, but I do highly recommend it for those who, again, love novels with some strong feminist themes and that really enjoy a very uncomfortable, unsettling book that's meant to shake up your perspective and to really make you think. You will definitely enjoy this. So that is all for this reading vlog. I only was able to read a couple of books, The Hollywood Assistant and Antibot. I'm not getting into the Demon of Unrest because I'm gonna take my time reading that. That's a whole other thing that basically my brain is fried. So I need a little break from the heavy stuff. So yeah, we're gonna like recharge his brain and yeah, take care, prioritizing mental health right now. So that is all for this reading blog. Let me know if you've read these books, if you did, what you thought, or if you have them on your radar. Let's talk about it in the comments. Make sure that you like and subscribe, and I will see you for the next reading blog next time.